Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NRG series in Lansing, Michigan this weekend. I'm Mason Clark, my co-host Corbin Hostler, and today we are doing a 10K standard showdown, and we have a lot more Magic to show y'all. We're going into round number 3. But speaking of a lot more Magic, let's talk about some of our upcoming events for the rest of the year here, Corbin, as we still have 2 more big events going on here. The first one's going to be in Mundelein, Illinois, Saturday, Modern 10K Showdown. Win that, go straight to our champs at the end of the year. Sunday, we have 2 big events going on. We have a 2.5K Legacy trial and then a 2.5K Edge of Eternity sealed trial. The Legacy one is the one we're going to be streaming here on this Twitch channel, so make sure to follow along or subscribe on YouTube. That way you can check out the VODs as well. So we're going to be bringing that. We know you Legacy players love to come out and game in paper. We love to see you. And we know for some of y'all, Legacy might be a bit out of the range. Maybe you're just getting back into Magic now, don't have a Legacy deck. We understand. We have Edge of Eternity sealed for you as well. And then we have one more event at the end of the year in Elmhurst, Illinois. That's going to be November 1st and 2nd here. Should be on screen in a second. I know we still got Will Kruger's face here. He's a little bewildered as much as I am here. Saturday 10K Team Standard Showdown, Standard Sealed Modern. Once again, we have Sealed here on the NRG series. We're really trying to work it in. We've heard y'all that y'all really like Sealed. You come on out for it. We're going to keep trying to support it. And then Sunday, 10K Modern Showdown to wrap up the year, wrap up the leaderboard. The winner of both those events are going to go to our end of the year NRG champs. Winner of that goes to the Pro Tour, and winner gets invites to the next year of NRG events for free as well, Corbin. It's going to be an exciting weekend. We hope to see you all either in their person or in here on the Twitch chat with us, as we do have our players to watch the board we want to check out real quick before we go down to our feature match area, as Alex, Grayson, and Will are all 2-0. Strong starts here. Harrison down to Zoe, all 1-1, staying alive. Raja picking up a loss after that round 1 feature. And then Alden, not out of it yet, but an 0-2 start. We'll have to see if we can rally back here and have a good, strong finish for the weekend. As it's time, Corbin, what are we going to be watching this round?
Yeah, you said it. And I have to say, by the way, great job getting through all of that, Mason, and good time there. As we head on down to the match, Dylan Brown on your left, Azorius Control. Alex Pulaski on your right with Gruul Surprise. And you know what? This deck was described to us. I haven't looked at the deck list for this one yet. It was described to me as Gruul Surprise. Maybe it'll be a surprise to all of us. Is that what I'm going to see?
A bit. I mean, these surprise decks have been sort of this fringe player we've seen in Standard basically since the release of OTJ, right? Getting the ability to have sort of a win from hand often with these decks of, getting the Blazing Saddle, saddling it up, making multiple copies of creatures with Terror of the Peaks in play and shoot people is traditionally what we've seen with these Gruul decks. And it just kind of creates a ramp deck that has a combo finish. And that has just at random points in Standard's life been very, very good. We've even seen some players adopt this strategy in new ways as this has come out with like 4 and 5 color surprise decks as a fringe thing we've seen online. We'll have to see if that converts to real life here. But Alex going in on Gruul as Dylan on Azorius Control, taking a mold to 6.
Yeah, and one of the interesting parts you bring up about that too is that the Standard decks we've seen today, almost every single one of them has had what we would call a almost combo finish. Right? Like that seems to be a feature of Standard at the moment. And whether that maybe that's a result of having more sets in the format, maybe it's just a result of Wizards consciously designing more combo type cards into the format, because that is something they've talked about over, say, the past 5 years or whatever, that, what is a good Standard format, at least in theory? Does it have the traditional aggro control combo mid-range planks, right? And so that is the thing, is like, they spent a long time purposefully not putting any combo in Standard because that was sort of deemed too complicated or too complex for the introductory format to Magic and all of this stuff. But over the last few years, they print cards like Agatha's Soul Cauldron that enable that kind of thing. And yeah, we're 3 rounds into this tournament here, our Standard 10K Showdown in Lansing, and 3 different decks have had combo-like finishes. And yeah, I think that just kind of speaks to maybe also the power level of cards in 2025. But it keeps the suspense up in matches, right? Like even when matches could otherwise grind to a halt, things can kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is a lot of cards getting buyout clauses, right? We talked about, like Consult the Star Charts as being like this late game, take over the game card, right? But also you can play it on turn 2. Smuggler Surprise has a similar mode, right? It can
Yeah.
sort of, it's a 5 mana sort of win the game card. But you can also play a couple mana and get a land if you're missing out. Esper Origins, kind of a similar-ish card here as a smoothing card. Some player call it the green Fable of the Mirror Breaker as it comes down here and sort of smooths your draw a little bit and then gives you a way to use your mana in the late game. Doesn't quite run away with the games the same way Fable does, but hey, maybe cards shouldn't do that. As Llanowar Elf pass here, a little bit of mana issues for Alex, even after surveilling so much with Esper Origins.
Yeah, he hit that Llanowar Elves, I think it's the draw step on turn 2, which is obviously I'm not going to say the worst time to draw Llanowar Elves, but it's probably the most painful time to draw Llanowar Elves. That said, here is at least a third land for him, but we'll see how much that stumble costs him, because it looks like we are just, in fact, attacking with Llanowar Elves, and Dylan's got to sit back for that one.
Block it. Block it. Make a fish. Make a fish and block.
He had to sit back. The control player was rattled by this one, shook by the Llanowar Elves.
Bro's gonna torch the tower or abrade it or something. I don't care. Stuck on lands, take your chance. You know.
Yep.
Also, you're gonna play like Beza or Elspeth or something. It's fine. Don't let them spend mana. And if Dylan slams Archangel Elspeth like we saw from Raja Suleiman in round 1 here,
yeah, just pick him up.
Yeah, like we're gonna have to have our Smuggler Surprise be very good.
Very surprising.
All right, Surveil Land. That's a Surveil Land, not a Scry Land. We'll get that fixed here. A very easy mistake to make. Temples and all. Dylan much rather have the card in the graveyard than in the bottom of the deck, probably. But maybe not for sure. We'll have that fixed, though. As Alex here is going to flashback Esper Origins. And this is why players call it, the Fable, the Mirror Breaker type card.
I love this card.
Moves early and then is a win condition later.
Another Dredge standout, by the way.
Yeah, totally believe that.
No more lies, though, on this time around. So we'll not get the best part of the Esper Origins there. Looks like we're catching up on the Meticulous Archive, I believe is the name of that one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we missaw it. Maybe it got put back on top of deck, and it just looked like it was put on bottom, but it looked like he picked up his deck.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Not relevant, I think, hugely, but it could be.
I mean, it's very easy to know, too, because we would know what the bottom card of the deck is, in theory, for Dylan. All it really changes is that Alex would have information, which does matter. All right. Alex now knows there's a Plains in the yard. Luckily, that kind of just means Dylan has lands in hand. Alex would still probably flashback Esper Origins.
Yep. Okay, there we go. We're back to the place we're comfortable in this one. Llanowar Elves attacking. And now Dylan's going to untap with a mess of cards in hand, 6 lands, and it's just going to instantly pass back. Something tells me that almost all of the cards he might want to play now could be played at instant speed, and he's just ready to react to whatever Alex Pawlowski has done, because thus far the Gruul Surprise deck has produced no surprises and very little damage and no fireworks, and Alex is thinking it over here.
All right, we do have a surprise in hand, which is an instant, so maybe we can make a little something happen. One thing to note, though, Dylan's getting Dylan reading surprise there as it got surveilled away. No, the jig's kind of up on that card. Dylan's deck here of blue-white gets a real advantage. Everyone playing Abrades and, torch the towers to fight these VV battles. Dylan just doesn't have cards that care about that for the most part. So a lot of dead cards in hand here for Alex and probably lots of Dylan's opponents this weekend.
Yeah.
As it looks like Dylan doesn't have a 2-mana answer for the Smuggler Surprise.
Well, and for what it's worth, we'll see how relevant this becomes in the coming months. But at the RCs, at least in the United States last season, when the other version of Izzet was dominating, those were actually, at least one of them was won by a control deck, right? And I think one of them was won by mono red. Everyone, despite Vivi, the Vivi, or in that case, Izzet Proudsex being so good, the fact that there were those players who were able to target them and find success, at least individually, just kind of speaks to tournament dynamics in a lot of ways. And that speaks to playing Azorius control at an event like this, and just having your opponents have a lot of dead cards against you, even if they're playing a deck that is going to be sort of in theory, better against the field than yours might be, right? So it's just there's a lot when you get into sort of the deep tournament metagaming that it comes down to, and yeah, that's sort of you hope that it works out in your favor. And Azorius Control could end up being a very popular choice for players who are not playing Izzet in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and maybe also just don't want to get the VV Cauldron cards, right? Like, it's sort of a big commitment. If you don't enjoy that deck, are you going to want to play that deck for forever? We'll have to see. As Elspeth Archangel comes down here and immediately makes some tokens for Dylan, and we do have a No More Lies now, so these big expensive creatures can get countered as long as there isn't something like Cavern of Souls to protect them.
Yeah, this seems like those stumbles in those early turns are catching up to Alex now, because this is where Dylan's able to deploy your win condition, at least eventually, while able to keep up counter magic. And you are aware that that's maybe what you're staring down as Alex here with the Gruul Surprise deck, but it doesn't mean you can do anything about it.
Yeah, Alex representing the ability to surprise and put two creatures into play. But as long as Dylan holds up No More Lies, we're going to have a lot of turns where that's not a huge issue. And this Archangel Elspeth card takes over so quickly. We talked about it a lot in round one with Raja Suleiman, but that Elspeth, make a bunch of tokens, works once on each player's turn, which means Dylan can make two fishes here. And then suddenly an attack in the air for 12 would be happening on the next turn after that. And that would be game over in just the following turn.
Yeah, Fountain Port has been such a key piece to not just control decks, I guess, mid-range decks, whatever you want to sort of define the various decks it's seen play in over the past year. But it's just incredibly powerful comboing with Elspeth in itself on top of everything else it does. And you mentioned it. There we go, making two fish and just having a board full of 1/1s that are about to get overrun.
Yep. All these become flying 2/2s, an attack for as much as you want. Maybe you want to protect your Elspeth. Probably doesn't even really matter if you just have, a bunch of 2/2s on the board. Yeah, like this. Just put one dice for everybody. Make life a little easier on us.
Yeah, you definitely, if you're playing the Gruul Surprise deck, I think probably hope to surprise your opponents in game one. And hope that maybe whether they are truly surprised or not, you hope to kind of get that game off before they get to sideboard against you. You don't want to drop game one in a lot of cases here. I think especially against a straight up Azorius Control deck, is No More Lies answers that Smuggler Surprise. Still plenty of mana left for Dylan if there's any follow-up. But for Alex, this is what you want to do, because that card is an instant. You're able to fire it off on their end step and say you had a second one. You can tax their mana as much as possible. Now, just too late in this case, and you see Alex Polofsky go ahead and pick his cards up. Game one to Dylan Brown.
Yeah, and that is, like you were saying, you're going to win a lot of game ones. I mean, just in general, but especially with a deck like Gruul Surprise, where your opponent theoretically does have some sideboard cards that are going to overlap for you, right? Like players are going to have things like Negate that can stop the surprise. So I'm really curious to see what Alex has in the sideboard here. Let's pull it up. That can maybe be a pivot, because Blue-White Control is a somewhat popular deck. So I would imagine, Alex is going to have some plans for that.
Yeah, spotting we see Planeswalkers, that's usually the go-to against control decks, right? It's to have a Planeswalker that can provide you some recurring value. All of that removal, probably not exactly where you want to be. The thing is, maybe you can make an argument for some of it, because it's like you can see games against blue-white where you want removal just because sometimes you need to remove a blocker, but it's generally at that point that you've probably are in a bad spot anyway. So a lot of dead cards, I would imagine, over there in that sideboard for Alex. But so that's why, like we said, you hope to pick up game one. By the way, take a look at this deck. Kind of a beauty.
Yeah, this deck has got a lot going on. If you haven't seen it already, there's a lot of ways to cheat in some incredibly powerful cards like Valgavoth, Bahamut into play. Vaultborn Tyrant, a secret all-star.
Yes.
Of the Pioneer format for a little bit there. It was a card that we were creativity into. Now, it got sort of supplanted, actually, I think, by Valgavoth and just by general combo Atraxa stuff in general. But for a bit there, it was actually a huge player. And then we do have the Calamity and the Terror of the Peak sort of wombo-y, combo-y thing here for Alex. In the sideboard, too, though, Surrak Elusive Hunter might be a card that's going to come in here. It can't be countered, and then sort of gives your creatures, whenever they get targeted, draw a card. not the greatest card in the world, but in some of these matchups, it can be very good as a way to kind of, hey, my opponent's holding up a bunch of mana for 3 steps ahead or something like that. I'll play this card on this turn. No matter what, I'm going to get a little bit of value from it, and sort of nickel and dime you a little bit and threaten that Smuggler Surprise combo kill that can be so powerful.
Yeah, especially when you consider that Alex likely has cards he wants to board out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's take a look over at the blue-white list, see what Dylan is working with here. Now, we don't see, we see just anyway the 1 flash freeze and the 1 negate, which are sort of the easy go-to. This would be perfect here. So maybe not quite as much as the tricked out blue-white sideboard we saw earlier for this particular matchup.
Yep, definitely not in that regard here. So other interesting things are kind of, if we look at the main deck again, still no Pinnacle Stargate for Dylan here, much like Roger in round 1. Looks like some of the blue-white control players are moving away from that. We talked about it, how, Into the Floodmaw is such a liability in those kind of matchups. Players just playing a lot of Day of Judgments. But look at this. Emergency Inject, a Beast Within variant, destroys anything and give them a lander token. A 1 in the deck. Sure. We saw Roger have Stasis Snare. Dylan's like, hey, take a land. I'll just answer anything. An expensive but clean-ish answer to whatever could come your way.
Everyone's got some fun ofs in these lists, right? And that's literally the point of the control deck, is to figure out what answers line up with what other people are doing. Therefore, it's always a moving target. And these decks seem to have some flex slots, and we've got some pretty fun ones showing up in.
Definitely. I actually, looking at this right now, because I haven't thought too much about playing Azorius Control. You take those blue-red cards from my cold dying hands. I wonder how many Tashani Tidebinders should be in the main deck here. We see Dylan with 1. I get it. Overlords close the game out, but Lord knows they're not the best card in a lot of matchups. And this Archangel Elspeth card seems to actually just be the thing that wins your game anyways. I wonder if in the Spotlight series, where maybe your local RCQs, you might run into a lot of blue-white control players just going, Tidebinder, 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 just play that flash game. It's an interesting way to think about it. I don't know that I would jump to it immediately, but something I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah, I mean, look, in various formats in the past, blue-white flash has been a popular archetype, and Tidebinder is a sort of a thing that could fit very well into that. Tidebinder answers a lot of the cards we're talking about at a mana advantage, at least temporarily sometimes. I think there's still probably a lot of room left to a lot of things left to discover in this format, even if things sort of end up in a similar place to where they are now. Lots of refinements to come, I think, over these lists. So, all right, we're off to the races here, though. Both players keeping tap land for Alex Pulaski. Passes to Dylan Brown, who is up a game here in round 3 of our standard 10K in Lansing.
As for Origins, doing its best. Alex, want to make sure I don't accidentally show anything. Not getting Spell Pierced either. Not the craziest card in the world for a control deck to play. We see that happen a lot in Legacy, especially when games are a lot more condensed. It's like, yep, I actually have to play Spell Pierce here, otherwise I'm going to die to reanimate. And both on top for Alex.
So I'm sending a message on turn 2.
Yeah. All right, looks like a land was one of those cards. So maybe Alex a little land light, though.
The lumbering. It is. So we'll see if this resolves here. This is a lumbering world wagon. If you're curious, it's a vehicle with crew 4. It's equal to the power is equal to the number of lands you control. When it ETBs or attacks, you can get a basic, put it into play. So it does look like.
I actually really like that from Alex, because from his perspective, there's some card on top of the deck that he wants, which turned out to just be a land. And so Alex here basically was like, hey, if you don't counter the lumbering wagon, there's some card on top of my deck that I'll shuffle away that I want. But if you do counter it, I will have this card for sure. Now we see Dylan decide to hold up mana and not consult the star charts to make the land drop that we missed. But then that Surrock we talked about punishing what's pretty clearly a No More Lies being represented, at least, coming on down here.
Yeah, and Surrock, that's a lot of keyword soup, a little bit on a card, but it is powerful. Uncounterable, trample 4/3, 4/3, and then with the text on it to get extra cards, it's a beating, that's for sure.
Yep. And it looks like we have a space station in play for Alex there with the Caravan Memorial World. That's why there's a 4 on this land and the Surak is tapped. You can sacrifice a land to create a 2/2 colorless robot token. Then creatures you control get +1/+0 and haste until end of turn. And that plus haste part is the thing that people are going to really pay attention to, as this means that you can put in one of your big creatures, maybe even hard cast it, and then attack in. I wonder if we're going to see this card actually, as time goes on, maybe even start showing up in sort of Lumra decks and things of that nature, as it is a way to haste up in Pioneer. As Esper Origins is going to get cast for its flashback, Dylan's going to ask to read the backside to see if it's actually worth countering. Kind of is.
Yeah, I think you probably want to. It's powerful. It's going to, because keep in mind what happens is you cast the front side, so you get to surveil 2 and then transform it into the Esper motto in here. So you get to set up the top of your library to put that, and then obviously you go after that kind of rating on top of your 4/4. So you do want to counter it if you can, I think, for the most part, and it obviously runs into a flash reason.
They're going to see a surveil here.
Sorry, we're right there with y'all, so bear with us here. Well, it looks like we've got some green issues. We'll get this worked out.
Yep, as the players are thinking a little bit on what they want to do. As Sorok is going to, looks like, crew up the space station here. I don't think you can respond to this once it's happened, yeah. I think your powering up happens regardless. Edge of Return is limited, a little bit of a blind spot for me after I fell in love with Final Fantasy Limited and it consumed my life for a bit.
That was that's me around. I think that was me with Duskborn Press most recently. I did go pretty hard on Edge of Eternity, so it's okay. Space stations or the ships or whatever, they were a little bit mid because you tended to work hard on them just to have them bounced or removed. So it is kind of nice that you are crewing up your land, which is obviously much more difficult to remove. So it's a nice place to park your extra power when you can. And obviously the payoff in the late game is huge. And it's actually pretty easy to power up when your deck is full of 6 power creatures, as opposed to, say, 2 and 3 power creatures, like a lot of the other decks in the format. So that, in fact, is where the creature getting removed, it did get to do some good because it got up to 8 counters on that land, as the players, looks like we're back here catching up. Still kind of a bit of a struggle on lands for Dylan, but is able to make land drop number 5 here. Has an Elspeth in hand at least, but opts to just pass the turn back over to Alex.
And a little land go action here. Trying to take a look to see if Alex has any Caverns of Souls in the deck. I didn't see any in the sideboard, but every now and again we'll see 1 or 2 of these pop in for matchups like this.
Yeah, it can obviously just be backbreaking, right? If you have that into your deck and then you kind of hold it for a turn where your opponent thinks they're going to be able to counter and you get them, very powerful.
Okay, here comes Subtle Surprise. Valgavoth is in play along with Vaultborn Tyrant. Vaultborn Tyrant's going to draw us some cards and gain us some light, and Valgavoth is going to get a read here from Dylan. The answer, Dylan, is it is not an easy one to kill.
That is correct. This is Vaultborn Tyrant. Standard is maybe not necessarily the format people thought it would see the most play in. Pretty popular casual card, but it does quite a bit. But obviously, this is it. I mean, look at this Smuggler Surprise go.
Yeah, and Valgavoth is going to in play now. Vaultborn Tyrant is going to get to Shini's Tidebinder on a trigger. But there are 2 because both enter at the same time. So Alex is going to get one of those triggers to resolve, going to draw a card and gain 3 life here. And this is why Vaultborn Tyrant is sort of one of the best Smuggler Surprise cards, It's one of the easiest to cast, but also just stabilizes you. Maybe it doesn't win the game on the spot, but put 2 of those into play versus, that mono red dragon deck, gain 12 life, draw 4 cards, put some 6/6s. You're probably going to stabilize from there.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Because it's obviously good against, so your opponent's going to remove it. You're playing against control. Yeah, that's great there. But the life gain as well means that when you hit it, you don't have to need to untap. Just getting that turn is crucial against the aggressive decks in the format, which is why a deck like this can at least try to compete when you have hits like that. Obviously, Valgaboth being kind of an ultimate hit in itself. Just giving you all kinds of options. That said, hey, Dylan hasn't picked his cards up. We Tidebindered one thing here. You may pick them up pretty soon, but theoretically, you're not just completely dead to a resolved surprise. You could wipe the board. The issue being, of course, that card is an instant.
Yeah, I wonder if Dylan's hoping to maybe wrath the board here and then fight through what's left. Oh, I guess Voltborn Tyrant is turned off currently due to Shine's Tidebinder.
Right, that's the idea, right? You're certainly, I mean, this is when that's what happens to you, this is kind of the best you can hope for. Now, I still don't know if that will be good enough. Obviously, we can catch a glimpse of Alex's hand here, and it looks like there is more gas of some kind.
It's at least a surprise. I wonder if Alex can go something like cast. Oh, it looks like we're not going to do it. I was like, you could maybe cast Surprise and then use the haste land. And if Dylan counters the Surprise, then your Valgavoth has a counterspell underneath it.
Yeah, if we can pull a Valgavoth here, get a look at that for people. But yeah, a lot of lines to consider here.
Well, this is lethal if we don't. Oh, I guess there's one short of lethal if we don't block.
Yeah. So you can see that you can play cards exiled with Valgavoth, which a lot of times, I'll be honest, Valgavoth just earns a scoop. But I guess these things all come up.
Yeah, this comes up a lot in Pioneer, where against Phoenix, you put this into play, and then your opponent can't super easily answer it, and then they play a bunch of cantrips, and so you get a bunch of cantrips for a life. But here's Day of Judgment.
Yeah, that is what you needed if you were Dylan Brown at 1 life surviving here against Alex Pulaski, who has Smuggler's Surprise, though. So here we go. Is this all of it?
Yeah, because we're going to use the mill mode as well to get some cards. I think Alex has a land in hand. It's an interesting spot, actually, from Alex, because I wonder if you're supposed to just pop clues on your turn and try to get lethal and force the chump block. Because if you don't hit, you're just actually dead. But Dylan here is dead to that, and that's going to work out.
That does work out. There you go. Game 1, after all of that, going over to Alex. So here we go. Let's move on over to look at these sideboards. Again.
Yeah, let's take a double check of that mana base here. I wasn't paying as much attention to it last time. There is 1 Cavern of Souls here for Alex in the 75. So that means Alex does have some out to when we hit those late games, can name something like Dinosaur in order to start casting these Voltborn Tyrants, which is real. That's something that definitely comes up in a non-0 percentage of games. We'll probably see Alex try to play it as the last land as well because of Field of Ruin. But after seeing that game, Corbin, anything else jump out to you that maybe you'd want to bring in?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're Alex, you actually have to, you probably feel pretty good about that one, right? You don't expect after being down in game, your opponent, you say, oh, they're going to run into a wall of counter magic here. But you know what? You went for your Smuggler's Surprise and it just worked. So you've got to be feeling pretty okay about that. That said, now you're going to be back on the draw. So, does that change your sideboarding? I don't know that it changes too much here for you. But it certainly is going to leave you a little more on the back foot.
Yeah, probably not enough in this matchup's going to change just how long the games go, but definitely something to think a lot about. We can check out the blue-white control deck again really quickly as well. I don't expect to see anything too different here. Maybe like a Seam Rip gets traded out with a different card because you don't need to answer the elf on the draw as quickly, but I expect to sort of see the same decks. And I expect to see you all at the next NRG event. That's going to be September 13th and the 14th in Mundelein, Illinois. We have a Saturday 10K Modern Showdown. And then Sunday, we have 2 events, a 2.5K Legacy Trial, which we will be streaming here on Twitch. So head on out there and play some Paper Legacy. And then we also have a 2.5K Edge of Eternity Seal Trial. If you're not a big Legacy fan, that's going to be going on. We will not be streaming that one, but All these events do reward with leaderboard points. So if you're on the grind, you can get that there. And if you win our Saturday event, you're going to get an invite straight to the end of the year championship. And then our last event of the year is going to be in Elmhurst, Illinois on November 1st and 2nd. Saturday, 10K Team Showdown, Standard Sealed Modern. Sunday, 10K Modern Showdown going on. Win either of these events and go straight to the end of the year Players Championship with so much on the line. Corbin, 5 digits of prize support, Pro Tour invite, free events to all the next year of NRG series. I mean, come on, what more could you ask for from an event as well? And rewarding not only winning events, but consistent performances. Coming out to the NRG series, we'd love to have you and see if you can test your mettle versus some of the best players we have here. As Dylan Brown is going to try to lock up, a good event here today. Starting 2-0, a great way to be. But Alex going to do his best to surprise Dylan.
That's right. Mason, Standard, Sealed, Modern. Those are the 3 formats on tap for the team event. Which of those seats are you taking?
Probably Modern. I would play Standard if my teammates are going to be like, I have to play Standard. You know what I mean? I'll fine, yeah. I'll do the work and I won't complain about it. I'll accept reality. This is what it is. If I'm going to be a competitive Magic player, I'm going to do this. That's going to be for the BNR as well. The BNR is going to be November 23rd, I believe. So already that you're going to be playing the standard format we are. But I believe both Spider-Man and Avatar will be out by then. So you're going to have 2 new sets worth of cards. But yeah, I would play Modern. It's my favorite format. It's a format I feel best in as well. So I would do that. But if my teammates are going to cry about it, I would do what needs to be done. What about you?
I'm going to take that Modern seed as well because that's let me start from the beginning here. I'm sort of a work backwards kind of person in this sense. If I start with the format where I can play Merfolk the best and work backwards from there. So in this case, it would likely be Modern. That said, I do prefer Limited. I got in my first major tournament result, blah, 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 that made me sort of think maybe I can do this and keep up with this. And that was a Limited tournament back in the day. So that's always been where I start with Magic. So I'd have quite a good time in that seat. I think I love Sealed being a part of the Team Trios event. That's not something you almost ever see, right? It's usually the sort of Standard Modern Legacy or Standard Pioneer Modern sort of split. So having Sealed be a part of that, I think is really fun, along with all the other fun events at these NRG events, right? Because if you like Pauper, there's Pauper. If you like side events, there's side events. And I am very much excited about the Legacy event we have on tap as well coming up next month. So lots to like moving forward. And here we go. We're going to move forward in this game. Dylan Brown on Azorius Control on your left has land, go. Alex Pulaski on your right. Gruel Surprise. Game 3 for all the marbles.
And here's Llanowar Elf with both players on rough hands. I don't think Dylan has the 3rd land as well. Oh, excuse me, does have a Fountain Port. Okay. So we have something, but no real counter spells available, which means that Alex can slam anything, Dylan's going to be,
This is just already a weird game. It's like a whole bunch of tap lands here from Alex with a turn 2 Llanowar Elves. Meanwhile, Dylan doesn't have the mana, the colors he needs. So this is actually the draw discard play with the 3 steps ahead.
Yeah, and this is such a big part of this card is, normally players try to use it as 5 mana. You play your big thing, I counter it, and I move through the gas. Yeah. But sometimes you hit fail rate games, right? And it looks like interesting. Dylan discards a land there.
It needs white source more than island, I think, but I didn't catch to see if we actually found one of those there. But we're going to find out now because here comes the draw step. This is not exactly going great for Alex either, though. It's a weird game for both players, but 4th land for Dylan does hit the battlefield.
Yep. Alex drew another tapped land off the redraw effect there into Llanowar Elf. But we also have a World Wagon, but Dylan has Counterspell mana now, so it's a very awkward turn here for Alex.
Yeah, I mean, talking about fail rate of decks, I've spent a lot of time doing that today because that's sort of been a feature of the games we've watched, but that's kind of what happened with the mana base here for Alex. This Llanowar Elves and the tapped lands, it's not exactly the turn 1 Llanowar Elves, turn 2 Lumbering World Wagon you draw up in your head.
Yeah, interesting here. Dylan can Tidebinder the trigger and let this World Wagon resolve and then have a clock in play and maybe start putting pressure on Alex. but could also no moralize. But if you do, you don't have that clean answer for a later spell. Looks like we're going to use negate here on the World Wagon.
Okay. Yeah, the Tidebinder line is also interesting because remember it shuts off both creatures, artifacts, and planeswalkers, I believe. So that it would in fact just kind of leave it floating there, not doing anything.
Tap land there from Dylan, and a pass over to Alex. It looks like Alex did draw land, so we're not just without any hope here, but in a very awkward position. You really want to get to that 5 mana ASAP here with Alex's deck. And we're a little behind here.
Okay, so thinking it through, I believe this is Kona.
I believe so as well.
So yeah, for those who don't know, Kona, Rescue Beastie. It's a 4/3 for 4. At the beginning of your second main phase, if it's tapped, you can put a permanent from your hand into play. So pretty powerful once you're able to satisfy that clause. That said, on this board, it's a 4/3. Not sure he'll get a chance to get to it being tapped, but it's a nice synergy, right? Because you're able to crew up the lands.
Yeah. I was gonna say your crew immediately.
I assume we're gonna run into some kind of issue with Dylan here, but the deck building from Alex here, you see the synergy, right? You see what you can do. Yeah.
Yeah, and Dylan here gonna no moralize this. Doesn't want to risk Tashana's Tidebinding and then Alex maybe having an answer with some sort of spot removal spell. Dylan here, though, has used a lot of his cheaper answers, so we could hit an awkward stage here in the mid game, as we do have Tidebinder 3 steps ahead, Elspeth Archangel in hand. Lots of powerful cards, but you see Dylan here a little like, I'm unsure what to do with the body language. Just going to slam the Archangel Elspeth. And these sort of plays, they incur a lot of risk, but if they get paid off, they're kind of like, betting your whole wallet on Reddit roulette. It just works. You get a huge lead, everything's looking good, and then you can kind of play safe from there. So,
well, Alex, if you don't feel like you have a good answer anyways, right? Like, you may as well just go for it. In a lot of cases, is sort of the decision line we've seen with these Elspeth players thus far. And here we go. This is that turn Alex has to do whatever he wants, and it looks like we're just stationing up the lands. Could be worse.
Yeah. Looks like we're going to station with the elves as well. Just put it up to 6.
Okay, well, hey, if you're Dylan, you probably don't hate that, right? And now this is a situation where you start to get where, hey, any board wipe looks really good. And considering these tokens are getting frisky, we'll see. We will see what follows this.
Yeah, it looks like there's an Ultima hand and a Day of Judgment. Get a Day of Judgment and then probably put more tokens in play.
Yep. Just recreate those tokens, pseudo vigilance in a way. Pass the turn back to Alex. You have 1 mana open if you're Dylan. That probably doesn't do too much, but Alex Pelosi has a 5th land, but nothing to do with it. In fact, just puts it into play tapped and passes the turn back. So fully in control, it seems, at this moment for the Azorius player. Maybe Alex has a surprise on the instep here.
He does, but it doesn't have the ability to put anything into play quite yet. And we have things to pay off too. So if Alex can rip a land here, he'll be in a great spot. But then we need the surprise to work as well. And that is going to be less likely here with what Dylan Brown has in hand. Looks like, a tap land here for Alex. This deck full of tap lands, so Nameless Lacona, it had a lot of deck building synergy if that card sticks, but when it doesn't, you are just playing a ton of ETB tap lands.
And it has absolutely punished Alex in this one. Here in this third game, it's just put him off his mana so many times, and it's just accumulated until we reach this point now. He's going to need a big turn because these tokens, they can get overrun, and we're looking at what? That's probably there's 6 tokens.
12. Yeah. Yep. And we saw this in game 1 too, right? Dylan sort of just ticks up, uses the fountain on 1 turn, zeros, and says, check, go, have an answer.
Yeah.
And this forces the surprise, and might as well do it on our turn. So we can attack something, and no more lies answers it. Even though we had the Calamity and the Voltborn Tyrant in hand, just couldn't get the card to resolve. And Alex here still after a good start of 2-1, but Dylan with a slightly better one at 3-0. And what a round.
Yeah, that was around. And hey, I think that is a couple good showings for Azorius thus far today, right? Now, I have to say, of all the decks we have seen today, it is the Gruul Surprise deck I'm most excited to try out on Arena. It looked pretty sweet, but if you are a control fan, Blue White has looked pretty strong thus far.
Yeah, it has, and we've seen a decent number of different cards too from these decks, right? These players have been they're in the same ballpark, but going about different ways. Probably a lot of time for innovation and adaptation here. But we have Dylan Brown in our interview area. Dylan, congratulations on winning round 3. How you feeling?
Oh, not too bad. Good start to the day.
Yeah, definitely. About the best start you could have, I'd guess, but I don't know for sure.
I did go to time in round 1, so certainly lost some mental energy there, but the record's clean.
Nice.
Well, you're playing Blue White. Going to time is, a job hazard.
Yeah, par for the course there.
But so let's start with the Blue White that's looked really good for you in that round. Certainly, playing against a deck where you kind of have a lot to consider what you're up against. How do you like where you're at this weekend?
For the weekend, I like where I'm at. That matchup in particular is pretty tough. I was fortunate that he missed land drops in both games 1 and 3. That's a really threat-dense deck that can do some things at instant speed that are pretty tough. You've got, like, Wraths that don't line up well against a lot of the threats, but it ended up working out okay.
So what made you want to play Blue-White control, though?
Not wanting to play VV mirrors all day. I do think that matchup is not too bad. The VV matchup in particular kind of skewed my deck to do okay into that, and Blue-Black, a little more respect to the aggro decks in the long games.
Makes sense.
Yeah, lack of no Meringue River region is kind of like the more unique thing I'm doing this weekend.
That's right.
Kept getting Disdainful stroked in post-board games, and you just spend 6 mana and they spend 2, and you just kind of lose. It was just the most underwhelming card in the deck, so playing some main deck Overlords mostly for the Blue-Black matchup, and that card's just been pretty good. I have 3 Elspeths as well, so I guess it's a little bit non-standard. That's helped the control matchups, and matchups like you saw, it just closes the game by itself pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, talk about sort of how you mentioned that you don't think the matchup's too bad. Have you played against Vivi yet today? Have you run into the Cauldron deck, or has it been kind of a mix?
I did play against it 1 round, but it was not. They had some very unfortunate luck in 2 games, like all lands 1 game, no lands the next game. I do think the matchup's okay. Vivi's pretty close against everything. It doesn't really have like a true bad matchup, but I would be happy to play against it for a lot of the day.
Well, you're 3-0 now. We've got 7 rounds coming here today. For everyone watching, they enjoyed that one, and we will wish you luck as you head off into round 4 along with the rest of us.
Thanks so much. Hope to see you guys later.
See you later, Dylan. Well, that was a pretty fast one, all things considered, for control. I'm going to see where we're at when it comes to our backup feature matches. I think we have a little bit of time, but we might not have enough time to show you here. I'm going to let production let me know, and then from there, we'll go accordingly. Looks like we're unfortunately a little bit short when it comes to time, but that does mean we're very close to the next round, Corbin. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to grab some water. Maybe you should as well, and we'll see you here in just a couple minutes for round number 4.